trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
This community of care is created through our work and our time together, our commitment to one another. This is our covenant, to walk together in loving fellowship, to share our hopes and values. As we pass these baskets, we thank you for your generous gifts which support the work of this religious community and Unitarian Universalism in the world at large. As a reflection of our values, we are pleased to participate in the Change for Change program. The coins you place in the basket today will support the work of nonprofits in and around the Grand Valley. With gratitude, we now will receive today's offering.
Let us sing together number 108, My Life Flows On. So ooh, I titled this sermon a few weeks ago, When Gratitude is All That We Have Left. And I wasn't really sure exactly what I meant by that. And this morning I was having a conversation with somebody and she said, but there's nothing that we never have left. Gratitude is never all that we have left. But I've been just reflecting on that phrase for a few weeks. And this morning when I was thinking about what does it mean to have gratitude and what do I want to say today? What is my message? And I usually, the way that I kind of do sermons is I come up with an idea and then I kind of let my subconscious work on it, and then I usually wake up on Sunday mornings and I put it to words. And a lot of times the ideas or the thoughts or the concepts come at about 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm still half asleep. And I just kind of let maybe inspiration come in. And what I was thinking about this morning was every year for Thanksgiving, it's traditional. We talk about, I'm so thankful for my house, and I'm thankful for these clothes, and I'm thankful for a healthy body, and I'm thankful for my family, and I'm thankful that I have a bed to sleep in. And this morning, all of those were true. You know, when I have a very soft blanket and I was very comfortable in my bed and my family is safe and I have a home. And so I am thankful for all of that. I'm so thankful to have these clothes on and to be warm and for this faith community and to be here with all of you. And this year it also feels just a little bit, kind of feels like a platitude, because yes, but there's so much going on in the world and there's so much uncertainty, there's so much pain, there's suffering, there's war, there's so much, and it feels to me a little bit trite to stand up here and talk about, well, I'm so grateful for everything that I have. So that was kind of my thought process this morning as I was thinking about gratitude. What does it really mean? And what I thought about this morning was everything that I just named that I'm grateful for were physical, they were simply physical comforts. And so the question then becomes, is that all that life is? Being here and trying to stay comfortable until we die? Is that life, or is there something more going on? And if so, then what is it? And what is that gratitude that we express if we would figure that out? So what is the gratitude that we are grateful for if and when we are stripped of everything externally from us? Is there anything left to be grateful for? And if that answer is yes, then that's what I want to get into my life. And so I was thinking about this morning, and I was thinking about Phil and his beautiful poetry and those words, that the connection that he had with that stranger, that other soldier in a different part of the world when people were killing each other. He made contact, he made eye contact with another human being. For one moment in time, they recognized each other's humanity. And as he said, because of that instantaneous connection of another's humanity, they both lived another day. That is something to be grateful for, and that is something that goes beyond a physical comfort. The connection that we have with other human beings. Maybe that's one of those places of gratitude. The power of love. We talk about love here a lot, but what does that mean? And so as I'm thinking about gratitude again, I'm thinking about another one of our elder men who is no longer with us. And when I think about the essence of somebody that just had an open heart, it was Dwayne Carr. And I talk about Dwayne, and many of you now haven't met Dwayne, and you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about Dwayne. And others of you start crying when I talk about Dwayne. But the reason that I think about him when I think about love is because he, for me, exemplified a person who had truly a wide open heart. And I still remember in March of 2020 when we had just, everything had closed down. And it was that Thursday, I was at a UU ministers retreat, and literally it was Thursday, and we were all saying, do we have church today? Do we not have church? Like, we didn't know what to do for Sunday, and then all of a sudden it was like, everything's closing down. We're all canceling church, and the UU ministers retreat was over. And so then that Sunday, though, we had we had a circle of maybe 10 people that still came to the sanctuary. It was the very first time that we did Zoom, and I had my computer, and we were in a circle, and I was taking my computer and like just putting it in people's faces as we were talking about what was going on in the world. But I remember Dwayne saying he had just been at the soup kitchen, and he said, I know I wasn't supposed to, but I gave this person a hug because he needed a hug, and that was another human being, and I know I wasn't supposed to do that, but this person needed a hug, and so I gave him a hug. That, I think, is an example of gratitude when it feels like everything else is lost. We were in the uncertainty. We didn't know what was happening. This was before we knew what this pandemic was going to be. And yet, so there was a lot of fear, and yet in the midst of that fear was a person with an open heart saying, I recognize the humanity in that other person. I recognize the inherent worth and dignity of that person, and that person, by golly, needs a hug. That is what I think it means to have gratitude when everything else is stripped away. I have been trying for a few months now to actually do a fun sermon on the Barbie movie. And if any of you who actually read the newsletter, you notice that Barbie is in there, and then Barbie's not there, and then Barbie's there, and then she's not there, because it hasn't, in the last few weeks, hasn't always felt like the right time to do a sermon about Barbie. My hope is that, in a few weeks after Thanksgiving, that we'll do our Barbie sermon. But the reason, when I titled that sermon, I called it Becoming Real. Because the essence of that movie was that this beautiful, perfect stereotype of a woman who had it all, with the perfect blonde hair and the blue eyes and the perfect home, wasn't truly happy, and everything that she had, she realized wasn't enough until one day she realized that what she wasn't real. That all of the picture perfect images weren't real, and she had the audacity in the middle of one of their goofy songs to look at her friends and say, but what happens when we die? And the music stops, and there's this pause, and it's very awkward, and then she says, well, never mind, and they start dancing again. But that was her first step on her journey of becoming real, when she realized that the comforts of everything, all the physical comforts, all the societal comforts, they kind of were just an illusion. And it became, who am I outside of this illusion? And then poor Ken had to realize, who am I outside of this Barbie? And he went on his own journey, and she went on her journey, and it's going to be a fun sermon. But But there's gratitude in there, and I'll probably repeat this, but the image, the scene that was most moving to me is Barbie goes into the real world. She leaves Barbie land, and she's seeing all these real human beings with life and struggles and pain and everything, and she sits next to this old woman, and she's just looking at her. She's just kind of like staring at this woman, and she looks at her and she says, "You're beautiful." And this woman looks at her and smiles, and they make that eye contact, and she says, "I know." And it's such a beautiful connection, and it's that same connection that Phil had with that soldier, and it was the same connection that Dwayne had with that man who was hurting. It was the same connection that Barbie had with that old woman. Three very different scenarios, and yet that was the core essence of what it means to have true human connection. And so I think as we are entering into November, we're approaching Thanksgiving. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. There's a lot of hurt and war and bombings going on in other parts of the world. The invitation is, where do we make that connection? And do we have to lose our own physical comforts in order to experience true gratitude? That was my question for myself this morning. I was like, Wendy, are you about to advocate that like you have to go through really hard times and lose everything to have gratitude? And I didn't want to go there. But no, I don't think so. I think the idea is that when we can get down to the essence of that human connection, of that inner human spirit, and recognize that's what we are, then it doesn't matter if we have $5 million or $5. All of those external differences are stripped away. And that's, the story of Siddhartha and Buddha, how he became Buddha. Siddhartha was a prince. He was supposed to grow up and become a king. And he had his early years in this beautiful palace, and he had everything that he could want. And to the point that he was even shielded from disease and death. Whenever he would go out of his palace, there were guards that would protect him from seeing anything that wasn't totally pleasant. And as a young man, though, having lived that whole life, he was thinking to himself, there's something wrong. There's something missing. I have every physical comfort, and I'm not fully alive. Like, what is going on? And so that becomes the beginnings of the story of how he became the Buddha, letting go of those physical comforts and eventually finding the middle path. And he went from extreme to extreme for a little while he was trying to find his way. And he realized that going all the way over here to deep suffering isn't necessarily any wiser or more spiritual than being over here living this life of elegance and wealth. And then he eventually found that middle path. But it was because he realized perhaps that what we need in life is the balance and the understanding that we don't have to renounce it all to be real and to be human, but what we do have to do is be willing to look into our own hearts and ask our question, who are we? And as we look into our own hearts, then we look into other people's eyes and think, who are they? And then we have that connection, and then we look at each other and we say, who are we? And so maybe that's what we do as we work through what it means to be alive in this year 2023 with so much divisiveness and fear and pain. Maybe that place of gratitude comes from our hearts, through our eyes, into that connection with somebody else. And we say, who am I? Who are you? Who are we? And who do we choose to become together? Maybe that's just a first step in a world that doesn't feel like it has very many answers right now. And with that, let us use our voices to share and express what that could look like with hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.